and welcome to Last of Us Episode 3 in review. Now, like we've done on all the previous episodes, we are going to be spoiling the living daylights out of it. So if you're just coming on, please totally understand that we are spoiling everything here. And don't adjust your audio there or your video. Yes, Matt is not talking because Matt is not here. He's sitting on a beach somewhere. Looks like he's drinking alcohol out of a squirt gun right about now. But I'm hoping he got to watch The Last of Us last night because, wow, I did not expect that. I know from a lot of the reviews and impressions that people put out before the show officially launched, everybody said, just wait till episode 3. And I couldn't believe how much I was blown away. As a huge fan of The Last of Us and as someone that has played the game, this was a huge departure from the game's source material, but I think in a good way.
Yeah. Agreed. This is definitely the biggest departure that we've seen thus far. And I feel like with each episode, we're getting like little tinges. Like here's a little departure here. Here's a little departure there. The stuff that happened with Tess last week, the pretty major departure, but not as major as this. This is stark different from what happens in the game. And I'm with you. I actually prefer it. I think that, just these characters and getting the way that this has all been fleshed out, like, to me, this is the infinitely superior way to tell these characters' stories. I loved it.
Well, one thing I was thinking about this morning as I was trying to digest it more, because after I watched it last night, I was like, wow, like Nick Offerman, well done as Bill. Frank, I don't know the name of the actor. I know he's from
Australia, isn't he? He's an Australian actor?
He's in Lotus Hotel or Hotel. I can't remember what the name of the show is. It's on Crave as well. Phenomenal actor. He did a phenomenal job, but it was a love story episode, and it was unbelievable because in the game, Bill is kind of made out to be a jerk, especially by Frank. If you get these letters that are throughout, and pretty much that's what this episode is. It's the letters, but had a little bit of a spin on it and didn't have Bill in the end still being so. Spoiler alert for the people that haven't played the game: Bill is still alive in the game. Bill, what happens at the end of this episode doesn't happen to Bill in the video game. And when you think about it, in the video game, it's a lot more action, a lot more things going on. And in the show, that would be really hard to portray, of them going around and just killing walkers and clickers and everything like that before they run up to Bill. I was a little disappointed we never got Joel hanging from the rafters because I really like that.
Yeah.
But because the story already said that they already knew each other, in the game, Joel doesn't know. He knows Bill. He's never seen Bill in person. Like, he's never met with him. He's never been to his place. So, like, it's very hard for them to try and do all those things. I was very impressed on how they told that story and that love story. Instead of making the ending be what it was in the game, they put a twist on it because I did not see it coming.
Yeah.
I did not see that ending coming at all because I was still in my mindset of this is what happens in the game.
Yeah. Well, what I totally thought was going to happen as we were coming up to I thought what was going to happen was, and we're in full spoilers right now. Full spoilers. If you haven't watched the episode, full spoilers. So when we get to the end, and it's the moment where Frank is having his last day. And he says, hey, I want you to crush up these pills and put it in my wine. I'm going to drink it and blah, blah, blah. I thought what was going to happen was that Bill and Frank were both going to drink it, and it wasn't going to work for Bill. Like, it was going to take out Frank, but not Bill. And we were going to pick back up, and we were going to see kind of what we saw in the game, but Bill's even more of like a fractured. But what actually happened, I get emotional even just thinking about it, because it's so sweet. Like, it's so tender and genuine, and like it's like Frank says, he's like, I would love to be pissed at you, but like it's actually really romantic. You know what I mean? Like,
it was
beautiful, like really beautiful. So,
well, I kind of figured something was going to happen because when they finally got to it and Bill and Frank were so old, I was like, okay, Bill wasn't that old in the game,
right?
Like, they really aged them. They got to spend as Bill puts Nick Offerman's character, the Bill in the show of this has been the best years of my life. Like, this is how he's done everything. There's nothing more for him to do.
I'm satisfied.
Which was great. And also just like the whole in the game, we know that Bill is a homosexual, but in the show, a lot of people watching for the first time don't know, and even Bill's character knows but doesn't know, right? Frank's character kind of like the music and like he picks it up right away, but at the same time, the innocence of their first encounter together intimately was very powerful. It took Nick Offerman's character. He did such a good job of showing his vulnerability and how much he, from this rough exterior, especially like even like you think about when he's sitting with the gun with Joel and they're like going back and forth beefing, but we know him as this other character that let down those walls. Because technically, look at his character; he's literally building a fence around the world. So he's put up walls everywhere, and he lets Frank in and falls in love with them, and it becomes a love story. And like people were saying, this episode 3 was going to be one of the most powerful things we've seen on Crave in a long time, and I was shocked. I walked away going, wow, like I am so excited to see what else they do. I have had my issues of what they've done with Ellie though. And it's weird because they're making her a lot more rough around the exterior and less innocent like she was in the game.
Yes.
And maybe, leading up to what could be happening in season 2. I get that. And maybe that's where, Bella Ramsey wants to take the character, and I'm going to trust her because every episode I'm getting more and more. We're still waiting for, as you said, the Ellie episode, which I really want, and hopefully it's the next one. But it's very interesting how they're taking these characters and still using the source material from the video game, but at the same time elaborating and either making them more complex or making them more vulnerable, making you like them or like them less. More like Tess. I liked her more in the show than I did in the game.
Same. Yeah, me too. I think it's Nick Offerman's performance in this is so good. I think for sure should be nominated for something for this performance. It's so good. The way that he, like you said, we got to see that vulnerable side of him. We got to see, especially when he's playing the piano and he starts to sing, and even in his voice, you can hear reservation. Am I really letting this person get this much of me right now? Mm-hmm. And they fall in love basically at that moment. And I was seeing a lot of people online talk about this episode as being filler, or is this kind of a throwaway thing? We should have got more Joel and Ellie or whatever. And I'm like, no, this is, and Neil Druckmann himself says it in the post credits behind the scenes. He's like, The Last of Us is ultimately about love. Ultimately it's about love. It's about love. How far are you willing to go for the things you love? What do you do when you lose love, and all the rest? And this was one of, if not the only instances we're going to see of sweet, genuine, tender love in this show. You know what I mean? Things are going to get bad. Things are going to continue to get bad, but this was just genuinely sweet. And I think it's important to show these kind of relationships on television. I can't think of a more well fleshed out gay relationship that I've ever seen.
In one episode.
In one episode. It's wild how well it's done. And I just thought it was really beautiful. I agree with you. I just want to see more of her. I like what they're doing with Ellie. I just want to see more of it. I just feel like we're not getting that much screen time with her. We got that kind of back and forth. There's the whole running bit of how Joel won't let her get a gun, which is kind of funny.
But I do love, people they're losing their mind about that, how she grabs the gun from the thing. I'm like, well, if you remember later on in the game, she has to explain where she had that gun when she saves Joel's life. Spoiler alert. It's just come on, that already happened. That wasn't away from what happened. That's what really does happen. We just now see it.
Right.
I think my biggest issue I'm having is I played when I just finished playing The Last of Us remake, and what they did with the mocap and how they put so much emotion in the face. And I can't believe I'm going to say this. I haven't seen that as much from Pedro Pascal as I did playing the video game. When they had the conversation, when Joel has this is what you do, and this is you do not show anybody that, they have that's it's almost line by line what it is.
Yeah.
And Ellie saying, yep, what you say goes, is how she ends it. in that instance in the game, you almost see like the frustration on him as like a parent. Like, all right, the kid's being a smart ass to me. But I didn't see that in the show. I also, at this point in the game, we know that Joel loves her and thinks of her just as his daughter. I haven't felt that yet from Pedro and Bella, especially like since even the episode when they ended it and when they're on top of the Capitol building and they're looking over at the Capitol building, and Joel looks at her. They didn't do that long pause. They didn't do that emotional, oh my goodness. Maybe we're gonna get it. But I'm hoping to see more of that relationship and that show me that Joel loves her. Like they hint to it. It's interesting that I watch a lot of YouTube shows after the fact, and they're like, well, this, and this, and I'm like, if you only played the game, if you only knew that at this point already, when they're visiting Bill, Joel is living in like he makes jokes with Ellie, especially with the comics. We don't get that episode. Like we didn't even get that innocent one where she finds the porn mag in the car. Hopefully we get that. Like hopefully we get that. But like that is it's a moment, right? Joel like talking to her like she's his daughter, or even the innocent walk to Bill's when they walk through that forest. The conversation that Joel and Ellie have is like a father-daughter conversation,
right?
And I haven't felt that as much. Except for one little part in this episode when he shows visible worried when she doesn't answer him in the shop.
Yeah,
she's underneath. He looked scared straight that he did not hear from her, like instantly. I've had 2 instances where I felt it when he punches the guy in the face and this, but I feel like I need to see more because in the game we get it a little bit more, and I really enjoyed that in the game. Because Joel letting his barriers down and being vulnerable.
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing with this version of Joel is he's in denial. Like he's feeling it, but he doesn't want to accept that he's feeling it. Because like he has detached himself from everything at this point. Even like Tess, who, it's sort of revealed just by his reaction in this episode and the way that certain things have come to the fore with Tess. Like he probably did feel something for Tess, but he never wanted to let that out. He never wanted to attach himself to anybody else after Sarah. That's the vibe I get from him. And then we get these little tinges, like you're saying, how he is worried about Ellie when she goes into the basement and he can't find her and stuff at the drugstore. He has that look of worry on his face. Even that, like this show's version of the pause on top of the Capitol building is just that quick glance at the watch.
It's
so quick. But it tells the viewer in his mind, he has, without even realizing it, made that connection of Ellie and Sarah in his own mind, So, like, it's not as, like, on the face of it, I feel like, but I think it's going to make the moment when that all comes out even stronger because he's been trying to push it down for so long. That's the vibe I get. I just want to see more of it. And I feel like the reason people kind of think this is a filler episode is because it's only episode 3 and like Joel and Ellie are barely in it, for a lot of it. It's
so good. Like
but it's great.
As someone who enjoys the source material, I wanted more Bill. Like we talked about this before.
Yeah.
We really wish they never cut out that Tess scene, right? Of the family that we all now know exists, but we've never seen. So hopefully we get to see it in like deleted scenes or such. But I want more backstory. I love this that they're taking in a different direction because the video game there's a lot of action and I've said this before on this. It's not an action TV show.
Right.
This is a drama. And this was the love story. Like, and Druckmann said, this is a love story. Everything about this last episode you had, even at the beginning of this one, this was about loss. The whole thing, loss of love. The very beginning of it, you have Joel stacking those rocks and cleaning the blood off his hands. Almost a little Shakespearean there, washing the blood off his hands.
Yeah.
Because he is a little bit blaming himself that Tess is dead. And that's why, like, we know that whole speech where he says to Ellie, like, you don't mention her name anymore. Because at the beginning of the show, I feel him washing the blood off. That's symbolism of him kind of saying, this is my fault.
Right.
Even though Ellie says to him like minutes later, like, you're kind of almost blaming me, when really she doesn't realize he's blaming himself.
Yep.
That's why he doesn't fight her about it. He doesn't say anything else. He doesn't get mad at her about it. He's blaming himself that Tess is dead, not her, because he made that choice.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get Tommy, and that was the whole point. Remember, in the video game, it's about the guns. Well, now it's about Joel going to see Tommy. Well, Tess wouldn't be in the situation or dead if Joel didn't have to go see Tommy.
Yeah. I agree with
Right?
you. And I love that you brought up that moment with Ellie. Just it's literally the next scene of like, hey, like, don't blame me for this. And yeah, she doesn't realize he's not blaming her. He's blaming him for
Yeah.
everything that's happened. And like you have that kind of like and he just sort of quietly he just kind of nods like after she says it, you know?
Mhm.
And I really, really love that. I think that's great. I do want to say no cold open with this one. How weird is that?
It was very weird. Like I thought after watching it, I'm like, I thought you could have actually cold opened it with Bill
Yeah.
and Frank. Like maybe, mind you have to do it in the real world before everything happened. But yeah, it was weird because we'd had this pattern.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very interesting that Joel went more into the reason for the outbreak and the reason for the cordyceps, that it wasn't just flour. It was also sugar.
Sugar. Yeah.
Which, like, you know, a lot of us are like, oh, it's flour, 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 because that's the theory. But it was flour and sugar that were the reasons, and tainted food from there on. So any of those products that got in anything else, and that seems like it in 24 hours, the world was over. And the way he describes it is just, it to him, it's just this like brief conversation. And I'm watching them like, oh my God, like how quick it was just a snap.
Yeah.
It's over. And he even said, like, you could have had the flour, but you were fine. It was almost like 1989 Batman, where the Joker puts all the chemicals in, and it's not just this, but it's this mixed with this that causes this.
Mm-hmm.
And as he said, like, if you had your cereal, it had the flour and the sugar. If you had your pancake mix, so it was in all these things. And when you combine, it was either it hits you right away, or if you had a little bit, you were going to be fine. So it was very interesting on him just explaining that to Ellie, and Ellie's innocence throughout, which I did like in this episode. She gets in a car and she makes a joke. Well, she makes a joke that for the fans of The Last of Us is awesome.
Yeah.
She calls it a spaceship.
Right.
And that's just like literally instantly made me think of what we will see in the future. And I was like, I almost went to tears just there, just thinking about that scene from part 2. And I'm just like, wow, like they made that little nod. She called it a spaceship, and he had to like reach across to put her seatbelt on to teach her how to even put it. And that's a dad move. So that was one of the parts where I was like, finally Joel is like showing it in the car. My hope is that in the next episode, she's either got the magazine. I want that conversation to be had, because that's like the first time he has it. Like she's the teenager and he's the dad,
right,
in the game. And I want some sort of, maybe it's not the magazine, maybe it's something different, but I love they need to put the nod to the video game. But when they did Mortal Kombat 2, but I want the comics, or I want the magazine, or I want the Firefly. Give me those conversations. Or please tell me Ellie got a joke book from the house
somewhere.
Like, please tell me the joke book was there and she got it from Bill's house. Because remember, she goes around and she starts looking at stuff. Please tell me we're going to get some more of that innocence. Or maybe the joke book is found in Left Behind.
Right.
We'll be getting soon, and then all of a sudden it's a thing in the show.
Yeah, we need something like that. I do, it was funny to me to see, you had mentioned this earlier, but to talk about this for a second, it's interesting to me that so many people have had an issue with Ellie taking the gun. To me, I'm like, there's no chance she wouldn't have taken the gun if she stumbled across it. And like you said, it comes back up in the game, but like she's been denied of having a gun throughout this entire show, and now she has a consequence-free gun that she stumbles upon. The same one that we saw, and I think this is foreshadowing, the same one that we saw Frank grab to go protect Bill, Ellie will later use to protect Joel.
Thank you, because that's literally what I thought, because I thought that's the one Frank grabs from the nightstand. When he goes outside and Bill gets shot. And it was interesting seeing this show through my wife's eyes. Mm-hmm. When Bill gets shot, my wife's like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah, my wife too. Yeah, she thought the same.
No, he's not. In my head, I'm like, no, he's not. And she kept asking questions. And this was the first, she's watched the first 2 episodes with me and really didn't really ask questions. So for people saying this is a filler, my wife asked so many questions this episode. Mm-hmm. So many. What's this? Is this going to happen? Oh, this is going to happen. And I was like, I don't know. So then as soon as the episode happened and it was over, I turned to her and I was like, here's what happened in the game. And that's what I've been doing. I've been doing here's what's happening in the game. And this was also the first episode that I was getting messages from friends, DMs on Twitter that are not who I would assume are video game people and all that, and they're like, "Should I buy this game?" I'm like, "Yeah, you should actually. You really should buy this game because I think people. The first episode hit, and we had all of us watching it, and anybody HBO person. But then the second episode hit, and the hype is built, and then they've renewed for season 2. We won't be talking about it in that PlayStation Drive because of this show. It has already been renewed for season 2, but I thought that was a foregone conclusion.
Right.
We can get into that later on in after talking about episodes of what we think will happen in season 2 and season 3. But I was very impressed with this episode. I did make a joke after it was aired. I'm like, I guess everybody's downloading Linda Rodstad now. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
like,
1,000%.
She's about to be the new Stranger Things, right?
Yep.
But they have a hit on their hands with this. And they have a hit on their hands with even the people I think that have played the game because we're getting something different. A lot of times when you watch a movie, it's based on a book. We're like, the book is better. I'm not going to say the show is better, but I'm not going to also say the game is better. I think they're both separately awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they have done. I'm not normally. I think I said this in the first episode of this post show. I am not normally somebody who likes video game adaptations of anything. For me, I'd rather just play it. It's rare that I genuinely enjoy something like that. But with this, they've added so much more texture and just just context to everything. It's exactly what I wanted from the show. And for me, like getting this version of Bill and getting to see this kind of side of Bill, like I understand he was the comic relief kind of gruff prepper survivalist guy. We got to see a little bit of that still at the beginning, right? Like in the montage of Bill, the second the world, goes to hell, he loves it. He's like, oh, awesome. He's like,
yeah, I love that part.
It's a great little montage, and he's going around. He knew exactly what to do. He's like, yeah, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life, man. And he even says it later on. He's like, I was happy when everybody in the world died, that was Bill's dream come true, but he didn't realize until meeting Frank that he found that new purpose, and, like we still got that. We still got the things that everybody says they're missing. It's still there. We just don't get it in the context of Joel and Ellie. We get it. We get to see Bill operating at that level. Then we get to see Bill fall in love. And then we get to see Bill die on his own terms, with the person that he loves.
Which was awesome because I have to go back. I know there's like scripts. I want to remember when Joel gives Bill the letter in the garage. I want to remember what Bill said. And I want to go back because if you remember, Frank killed himself because Bill wouldn't let him do the things that the Bill in the TV show finally gave in and did.
Yes.
So that conversation, I said to my wife when they were talking outside of the house and Frank wants to do the boutique and he wants to paint the house and have friends. The Bill in the game was like, nope. The Bill in real life let more of his walls down and was like, yep.
Yeah, begrudgingly.
And there's your difference. There's your difference right there. There's your incident. That's your timeline. That had a different timeline. This is the multiverse of The Last of Us, and that's what happened when Bill decides, yes, Frank, I love you and I will do anything for you. But in the video game, Bill's stubborn and says, no, that ain't happening.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but like getting to bridge that relationship, the way that he knows Joel and Tess, I think makes so much more sense in this, and getting to see that happen in the sort of flashback where they're all having that little dinner together and everything. I'm like, this is great, man. Like this to me is like so much better than filling in the blanks. Yeah, I thought it was special.
And I also love the couple dynamic of when Frank and Bill are talking at the table. Bill and Joel are talking at the table, and Joel's like, well, like I can get you the aluminum, blah, blah, blah. But yet Frank is over on the other side talking about trading wine and stuff like that with Tess. And he's like, don't worry about that. We're going to do this anyways. We're best friends now. And it's just like, that is like what real relationships are like when you're like having a dinner date with your wife.
Totally.
And their friends or whatever. And the two people that barely know each other are talking, yet your wife and her friend, just like they're chatting away. They're plotting schemes. And Frank is just over there with Tess. It's like, no, this is happening. Like, who cares what he says? This is happening. And
totally.
Joel and Bill are just like eyeing each other down of like, all right, well, who's going to blink first?
Yeah, well, and I love too. There's a little throwaway line that Joel says where he kind of hesitates for a second. He's like, "Yeah, whenever mine, with like he kind of almost refers to Tess as his partner, and almost, and I love stuff like that. Like I love that little bit of hesitance there, a little bit of character development. And then like there's so many. The thing about this episode is like, there's so much just like sweet little moments, like in the strawberry field, like it just like these little tiny moments
the giggle. Bill Offerman's giggle.
I love it.
Unbelievable, because the last time I heard him giggle like that, and I was actually going back and looking at all the Parks and Rec stuff, and there was like the giggling when he had his steaks and stuff like that. He did the giggle from Parks and Rec when he ate that strawberry, and I was dying laughing. Like
I love it.
I was just like, well done. It was like it was well done. They did such humanizing Bill for making this rough exterior. I was actually, oddly enough, was one of those people where I wish it was still Bill at first. When they first announced the casting of Bill Offerman, I think he's a phenomenal actor. Not just from Parks and Rec, from other things he's done, but at the same time, I was like, I kind of like the Bill character, the actor who portrayed him. I was like, I love the voice, but to me now, Nick Offerman is Bill. And that's what I love about this. Joel is not Pedro Pascal to me. It is what it is, but he's doing a great job. I think Bella Ramsey's becoming more an Ellie for me, but Nick Offerman is Bill now, like in my mind.
Yeah, he totally sold it. I'm curious, because you're way more familiar with the first game than I am. To me, this is where I start to have like blank spots in my memory. It's been a long time since I've played the first one, because now I'm like, I have a hard time thinking about where we're going next, other than obviously we're on our way to Tommy, right? But
not yet. Remember? So we've got to lose the truck.
Right.
So we're about to the bloater. I would assume if they do not, so let's get into what could happen in the next episode.
Yeah.
If they don't do Left Behind, because I think we both agree Left Behind is a whole episode. And people are going to be like, it's filler again, but Left Behind is a whole episode. And they once again, she talked about her friend again, because she talked about the video game. So I would almost assume Left Behind is the next episode. But you have to go, if you remember, they go in, and that's where you first see what did they call them in this episode? They just called them the people that attacked Bill. That's we're going to see more
Raiders.
of them. Raiders. So if you remember, I think it's Pittsburgh. They go through Pittsburgh, and they can't. The highway's blocked, and they have to go through, and then they have to roll down, and the guy's out in the middle of the road, and then he goes right through them. And I think we saw it in the trailers. It shows them going over a snow cap into the winter. So they're going to bring us the winter earlier, if you know what I mean. Sounds like it.
Okay.
But I would think that the next episode is them going to Pittsburgh. We're finally going to see the bloater. If they don't do Left Behind. Because you have to get rid of well, you know what? You don't have to do anything now because they've changed the whole trajectory of the game, right? But I would think, like the episode of going to Pittsburgh and then they end it meeting Tommy, right? It is what it is.
That's sort of what I was
thinking. That's where
you
would go with this. But I think you need to do Left Behind as an episode. So we're on episode 3. We know there's eight or 9?
I think 9. Yeah.
9. So say episode 4 is Left Behind. I'm okay with that. I think both of us have wanted an Ellie. I think Bella Ramsey is phenomenal at the craft. So I would love a Left Behind episode. So that's a whole episode. And then you have Pittsburgh / Tommy. And then you have, so that's, now we're at 5. And then 6 is winter. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I think 6 and 7 can be winter.
Yeah, you got to stick on winter.
If you know what I mean? That's
while.
A 2-parter.
Yeah.
6 and 7 is winter. And then 8 is walking towards the hospital, and you end it with the giraffe. Because if they don't put it in like that.
Oh, yeah.
We all angry.
It must be in there. Yeah.
And then 9, I think it doesn't. I think they give us more after the ending of the game. I think they lead into 2 and go to because, if you remember when they end it, they're at the top of that thing. I think we walk in and we end it inside there where we start in 2, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because then that's you can split See. Look, we pretty much mapped it out there. You still got to give us more backstory, but like Left Behind to me is an episode. It has to be a full episode because there's no other main big character besides Tommy, unless they give Tommy an episode.
I was just thinking that. I was like, I
Pittsburgh
wonder.
And Tommy is an episode, right? You could be going into Pittsburgh and then give Tommy his whole thing.
Yeah, I do wonder if we're going to. I have two thoughts. I think we need like a Tommy centric episode because we just haven't had that much time with him.
But
we need our Ellie episode. You know, we need that somewhere. Obviously, you know, Winter is going to be very Ellie centric in general anyway. But we do need more of that. But I also am wondering if they're going to start planting the seeds of The Last of Us 2 in season 1. Like if we're going to maybe see characters, locations. I want to go back if he said where Tommy is, because remember we go to Pittsburgh and then we go to Colorado, right? Right.
And that's where the hospital, the university is. Mm-hmm. And I would assume the ending of that episode is where you end an episode. I don't see how you don't. We all know everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, this is happening." We're gonna be like, but it's gonna be a cliffhanger for a week for a lot of people who have no clue. But I'm just trying to. Do you do Left Behind at the beginning of Winter and then you meet David? It's just man, people say episode 3, and I don't think people understand what's about to happen in the winter. Like, I really don't.
It's going to get dark. It's going to get dark. Well, and I wonder, too, because at a certain point, and I don't remember exactly when this happens.
And we also haven't met Ellie's mom yet, because Ashley Johnson is Ellie's mom.
Yep.
And Troy Baker is in David's crew, right?
Yep.
Troy Baker's still Joel, by the way. But Ashley Johnson, so if we're going to get the Ellie episode, do we get Ashley Johnson, Ellie, Left Behind? Like, are they going to introduce it that way? Like, is her mom going to still be alive?
I was thinking too. I was thinking it could even be a cold open. I was thinking that a cold open could be an Ellie flashback. It could be the birth of Ellie
Johnson
and
started off.
Yep, and her giving birth to Ellie and Ellie kind of growing up in the QZ and going to school, which they've alluded to a couple of times and stuff. I think that could be kind of an interesting one.
Because a lot of people keep telling me they think after the university, that's when we get our Left Behind episode. I'm like, so you're going to do that to everybody. You're going to give them, you're going to do what you do, which we all know, like what's going to happen. And then you're going to be like,
let's hang on.
Episode.
Let's hang on to that for a second.
Take another week. Take a load off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it man, because we keep saying we want an Ellie episode, but when you think about it, it's about to be all Ellie.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Psychologically, right?
Yeah.
Joel,
he takes a back seat.
It's gonna be all Ellie.
And in the final portion of the game, like he's like at a certain point, he's like just out. Like he's just out of it during that section. You're just even
Ellie.
In the game.
You care more about Ellie now.
You're playing as Ellie, even literally in that section.
She put the shirt on, by the way, when she got
the she put the shirt on. Yes.
Still haven't got my Firefly pendant yet, which is annoying the living daylights out of me. Or every time they open a drawer, I'm waiting for the noise. And I haven't got it yet. And I'm like, really? You're not going to do that to us? You're not going to give us the noise of like nuts and bolts moving? Really? Really? Maybe we get it in Pittsburgh. I don't know. But give me that. All right?
Yeah.
Just give it to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just ready for next week, man. I'm like, I get so ravenous for this show. I'm just like, man, I really got to wait a week. I'm glad that we have these opportunities to discuss and like break it down and stuff between weeks. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to wait. Good show.
Very good show. But so if you have any questions or anything, let them know in the comments, and we'll be talking to you everybody next week. Because I'm just more excited now after that episode. I think that sounds so weird, but I'm more excited about what else are they going to do to wow me that I didn't see coming. Because even as someone who played the game, I'm telling you, I'm wowed. Did not see any of that coming.
Yeah, and we would have people leaving questions, stuff like, what do you think is going to happen and whatever. And we could sit here and have fun and predict or whatever. But what I love is that it's never going to be exactly what we thought. Like, even if you go back and listen, when Matt and I were predicting what they were going to do with the Bill and Frank episode, we were both totally wrong. Like, it's just, they went in a different direction, and they've been doing that time after time, and it's such a joy to not be able to predict what's happening.
I know it's far away, but can you go in a different direction with David? You can.
Not really. I don't know.
No, you can't, because it's her arc, right? That's her arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that. I wonder how graphic they get. Oof.
Yeah.
Do they get Game of Thrones graphic?
It's HBO, dude. You know, it's the Game of Thrones network. So
fair enough. All right. Well, this is us, and this was The Last of Us. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.